You're listening to Cat Tales.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Cat Tales. It's exactly 40 years since John Otway's now legendary appearance on the Old Grey Whistle Test with Wild Willy Barrett with gymnastic antics to Really Free. It was this performance that shot John to fame, but despite a financial backing of £2 million in today's figures from Polydor Records, it was a further 25 years before he enjoyed a second UK chart hit with Bunsen Burner. Undeterred, John is now celebrating his 65th birthday with the recent release of a brand new album, Montserrat, and is already making plans for his 70th. This is the one with John Otway. So hello John, and how are you?
Fine. Having a good year this year.
I can see that you are. Actually, you're out on the road again. Actually, you seem to be out on the road all the time. You are a very hard-working man.
Yes, it's been sort of like a long tour. I mean, probably even longer than Bob Dylan's. I think I started doing gigs in 1976 and haven't really stopped. I know sort of about 1998 we did our 2000s gig, and so I think I should manage around about 5,000 over the distance, which is quite a lot, really.
That is a huge amount. Now, come on, look, you're not used to actually just going up there and singing. You're quite, you're very, theatrical in your approach here. That must be wearing on your body as you're getting older now, John. All this headbutting and tumbles.
It keeps you fit. I've got the feeling it's one of those things, if I actually stop doing it for any length of time, I won't be able to do it anymore. So it's quite actually, it's quite good, and it is really, if you think about it, it's sort of like a 2 to 3 times a week workout, and so I've actually remained relatively fit compared to some of my contemporaries.
Yeah, do you know, that's a really good way of looking at it. I hadn't looked at it that way, actually. I thought you'd probably be in the gym, working out just for that performance, so that you could do that tumble on stage. But actually, it's the other way around.
It's completely the opposite. It's have 2 or 3 pints of beer before you get to the stage.
And it also breaks your fall a bit, doesn't it? Then you bounce a bit more. I love that. So actually, you've been touring relentlessly forever. Is that a secret of your success, to be perfectly honest? Because, the music industry's changed so much. It's gone from record sales to downloads. But to survive now, do you think it's all about the touring?
Oh, I think in my case it is not sort of like mega stardom. I've always referred to it as like micro stardom. If you actually build up a fan following that comes to see you live and you keep the standard of the show up, you've basically got a career that lasts forever.
Yeah, that's true. And also, of course, coming up with material that's going to be sufficiently compelling for people to want to see.
Yes, that's the plan.
That's the plan, he says. So, I mean, really, it all goes back down to that big break that you had back in, 77.
Yes, no, and it's quite exciting, actually, because basically this week it's exactly 40 years since I released my first hit. So, I have actually been a pop star for 40 years.
Hey, that's a celebration in itself, John, isn't it? Crikey.
I know. It's great, and not a sensible day's work since.
No, not at all. Like that. And, of course, was that
one
that was 40 years?
Call Baby, That's Really Free.
Wow. Amazing. And, of course, that iconic performance on Whistle Test, which I think was the one that broke you, really, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. There was a bit... it was strange. It was very, very much like overnight stardom. Because at the time there's only like 3 channels on telly, so 5.5 million people saw me hurt myself on television. And we were playing to like 20, 30 people a night. That went out on telly, and then we were playing to hundreds a night. And Really Free was out as a single, and it went up the charts.
That must have been quite incredible at the time, though, John. You sort of like almost an overnight sensation. How did you cope with all that?
Oh, easy. I cope with the overnight sensation very, very easily because I've been looking forward to it since the age of 9. It was the coming down from that and having all the following flops that's much, much harder to deal with.
Yeah, they say that, don't they? Once you've tasted that success, then actually trying to deal with the fact that, I feel rejected.
Yes, I know. It was actually 25 years before I had another hit. And I refer to them as the hitless years.
The hitless years, I like that. So what did you do in the hitless years? Tell me about what your journey was.
We put out a lot of flops, basically. We thought they were hits when we put them out, but unfortunately they weren't.
So
And we kept the live thing. We kept the live thing going, and the live thing, and we just did all those shows, and we kept the fan base going enough so that we, coming up for my 50th birthday, we could have a campaign to have another hit, which got me back on top of the pops.
Yes, with Bunsen Burner. That was great. That was the comeback king, really, there, weren't you, to be honest?
Yes, and it was really nice. We just squeezed in there with that before Top of the Pops basically ended. So, nobody can really sort of like copy what I did now.
No, that's right. But actually, you were quite pioneering in that because, of course, it was a real sort of like fan base sort of driving it forward, wasn't it? Which was unusual at the time.
Yes, and it's that sort of crowdfunding sort of idea. We were quite sort of early on that. We worked very hard with the fans and the fan base, and a lot of my fans were sort of like quite tech savvy. So we had a sort of like quite a good sort of base to sort of build that sort of thing on.
Yeah, and it's sort of like it's laid the foundations for people like Rage Against the Machine, etc., to try and make sure that they got against the charts at the time and that rebellion, which is great.
Yeah, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean that rebellion is actually a bit that I always think about when I think about your performances. But how do you see yourself? I mean, what's motivated you to perform in the way that you do? Is it just expression, or is it rebellion?
No, I decided. I decided from the age of 9 that this is what I wanted to do. It wasn't helped by lack of talent.
You may say that, but I could possibly comment, John.
So basically, that's where a lot of the theatrical and the more gymnastic elements of the show came up to sort of like try and disguise the fact. And I did enjoy writing. I'm a bit of a wordsmith, and so a mixture of that and surrounding myself with sort of like good musicians.
Yes.
Allowed me to get away with it.
Get away with it. Well, you've got away with it for all these years. You're doing well. I mean, I think what that makes me think is, when you've said there about 25 years between the two big hits that you had there, that shows how hard it is, doesn't it, to actually come up with that formula.
Oh, it is difficult, and if you just go a long time, it is to fight your way back up from, after not being in the charts for a while, so I get back up there. It's not an easy slog, and it did feel like a genuine big achievement when we managed it.
Probably sweeter the second time around in a way.
Oh yeah, yes. Because you can sort of like you can rephrase it to having a chart career spanning quarter of a century.
Yes. Of course you can.
And then the other one everybody liked using was the phrase, "We finally got the S on the right side of the word hit."
That's lovely. I love that. That's so true, isn't it? But people had faith in you at the time, though, didn't they? After Cool Baby, because you had obviously Polydor backing you quite nicely with a big financial recording contract, which at the time was a massive amount of money, wasn't it?
Oh, it's a huge amount of money. I mean, it's worth a couple of million these days. But I think they thought because I'd had one hit, I was going to have a string of hits, and they gave me the big advance before I started having the flops. We actually put on a benefit towards at the end of our contract. We actually put on a benefit concert for Polydor
because they'd launched you in there and you felt quite sorry for them, did you?
Yes, they suffered a lot under my hands.
Oh dear. Oh no. Oh, that must have been quite difficult, though. You must have felt the pressure.
Yes, but you just kept going and kept gigging, and we got back up there.
Yeah, and that's the best thing, isn't it, really? At the end of the day, it's a success story because you're still there and you're still going and you came back with other hits, which is great. And
yes, it has been a career that sort of like lasted all my life, and a couple of weeks ago I did my Core Baby I'm an OAP gig.
terrific.
So, I sort of reached retirement age without having to work, which was always the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, you're not going to retire. Tell us you're not retiring, John.
No, because there wouldn't be any point, would there? I wouldn't get to show off.
No, that's right. What would you do? You'd be so upset.
I know, it'd be very boring.
It would, wouldn't it? I'm very interested, actually. I've been reading about you. I've been looking here about this whole world tour that you were planning with a private jet and taking out some fans, etc. I mean, what an absolute PR person's dream you are, John, but it didn't come
Well, yes, it would have been good if it had worked.
Yes.
But that is a problem with having, and I noticed it with the first hit, and it happened with the second hit. If you have it tends to go to your head, and then you think you can do anything, including charter your own jet and fly around the world and play Sydney Opera House and the Carnegie Hall. In fact, I found out you couldn't.
Yeah, but
you needed more than one extra hit.
Yeah, but you were almost there, though. You'd actually got the plans in place, and Glenn too.
It was very close. I mean, if there had been crowdfunding things like Kickstarter now, it wouldn't have been a problem because you would have been able to work out, by the crowdfunding whether it was feasible or not before you put all the money on the plane.
Yeah, that's true. It's all changed, hasn't it? And of course, you've used the crowdfunding for your latest album, haven't you? Which was launched.
And that worked exceptionally well.
And of course, it's Montserrat, and you actually went out there to Montserrat to record it, didn't you?
Yeah, so I'd written this song called Dancing with Ghosts, and I thought, where would I record it? And then I just watched this George Martin documentary, and there's all these bands from the 80s that had recorded in I'd recorded in Montserrat, and I thought we could go and dance with all those ghosts. And the last people to record there were the Rolling Stones in '89.
Wow.
They recorded Steel Wheels there, and then the island got hurricaned and then volcanoed. So I thought, we could be the third natural disaster to hit the island. And it was brilliant. We stayed at Sir George Martin's house in the north of the island because he had a sort of like a soundproof room that we could use as a studio.
Wow.
And it was great. Our producer was waking up in Sir George Martin's bed, and we were all waking up and there's gold records on the walls, and you walked to the studio past the signed Linda McCartney prints. Wow. It was all I really did make you focused and thinking, well, we really ought to try and do something that isn't rubbish.
Yeah, God, that must have been very surreal, actually, with all those names who have been there before. And as you say, Linda McCartney's photos, it's almost like, hello, oh, wow.
The house belongs to sort of the Martin family. So, and there's lots of sort of like pictures and things of, basically all the big stars of the 80s that sort of like hung out there.
Wow, incredible. And did it survive the hurricane? Because, of course, there's been another hurricane since then.
Air Studios didn't. The main big studio that George Martin built there. So basically the hurricane destroyed that, and then the volcano sort of doubly so, really.
What a shame.
Yes. So we went over there, and we found that, there was... Sir George Martin's house used to be a radio station, and there was a little studio in the basement. It was just perfect for us to go and record.
Wonderful. So, of course, that's now available, and presumably on your tour, which you're doing now, you will, of course, play some music from this.
Oh yes, absolutely. New material. That's unusual.
Yeah.
There hasn't been new material for over 10 years.
I was going to say, it's 10 years, isn't it, since your last album? So.
Yes, that's right. That's. The reason for that really is lack of demand.
I thought you were going to say lack of creativity then, or inspiration, but no. Oh well, at least you got there at the end. That's the main thing. You've done one.
Yes, no. And the fans really do genuinely like the album, and the whole kickstarting thing is great because it does whet people's appetite. They know that they've sort of like funded it to get the whole thing off the ground.
Yeah, and did you announce that it was actually going to be done out in Montserrat beforehand? Because I thought, my goodness, of all the places to choose in the world, you don't go to Clacton, you go to Montserrat. So people.
Well, what we did was on these crowdfunding things, you can step them and you go, look, if we earn if we get this much money for our album, we'll record it in the guitarist's garage in Harlow in Essex. However, if we generate this much money from the for the album, we'll go to Montserrat and record it at Sir George Martin's house. And I think that inspired the fans. We generated enough to do the exciting version.
Oh, terrific. And and that's just as well, isn't it? Because that's where you were aiming for, some nice sunshine on your back and a bit of history.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you had to look over your career then, obviously we've had some highs and lows we've talked about there, but, is there one thing that you would pick out and go, do you know what, that, although it may not have been the biggest moment, is something I'm most proud of?
I think when I did the film, because I did the film using a lot of archive footage, the one we started with was a concert that I did in Aylesbury Market Square after we'd had the first hit in 1978. And I was always regarded by the locals as a bit of a loony. But because we'd had this hit, the police called, and I was the first sort of pop star from Aylesbury. The police cordoned off the town centre, and about sort of 40,000 people completely filled the town centre for my show being filmed for national television. And if you sort of like do showing off to your family and friends in such a magnificently spectacular way, it is probably something that I cherish.
You cherish, wow. And that appears in the Rock and Roll's Greatest Failure movie, does it?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Oh, right, so if people want to see that moment, they can go and buy your movie, can't they?
Yes.
Which actually tells this story that we're talking about, doesn't it? From your, the beginnings through the dip, through up again, and rising, falls, etc. of John Otway.
Yes, because that was another sort of crowdfunding thing, really, because after having the hit for the 50th birthday, thought we were going to do for the 60th, and I thought, well, Otway the movie. And we funded that by selling the tickets for the premiere to the fans, which funded the movie. And then what we did, which was quite clever, was we filmed them all coming up on the red carpet, and then while the film was getting shown at the premiere, the director was quickly editing up the last 5 minutes, which was everybody arriving for the film. And then up it came at the end of the movie. As everybody in the cinema watching themselves arrive.
Oh, how wonderful. And of course that sort of completed the full circle, didn't it? And that was in Odeon's Leicester Square, I think you launched that, didn't you? Yeah. Wow, what an experience. I'm ashamed I missed that. Why didn't you invite me?
I should have done. And no, you'd have loved it.
I would have done, wouldn't I? So, you've said that was really for the 60th or whatever, wasn't it? Now you're not there yet, I know, but of course the next...
it's only 5 years, it's only 5 years, halfway there from my 60th. I've just had the OAP year. But the 70th, I'm thinking of Otway the Musical. That's sort of, not toying with that idea. That's one I haven't done yet.
Oh, I like the idea of that. And would you be performing in it, or would you, cast somebody else to do that for you?
How I'm going to do it. I would not want to be on stage, would I?
No, you've got to do it. You've got to.
I'd probably have to be my dad.
Yes. Yes, he probably would. And was he a dad who would say, "Oh, John, you'll never make it. Don't do anything in that sort of thing. Go and get a proper job"? Or was
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, my dad was an ambulance driver. The rest had 4 sisters, 3 nurses and a social worker. And my mum taught mentally handicapped kids, and there was me, the only boy, who was a punk rocker.
And embraced it well and truly.
Yes.
That's good then. So that's really where your ambitions lie then, is it? For this, if you had to do something else, I was going to say, what's next for you? But I guess that's a big ambition, isn't it? Something on the stage. Yeah,
well, one thing we're doing in January that's quite interesting, because my band, which I did the album with, will have been together for 25 years without a lineup change in January.
My goodness, that's incredible.
Yeah, so I thought, how we're going to celebrate, and I came up with this idea of the big band in Barcelona. So in January, we're going over and doing a show in Barcelona.
Oh, that's nice. Why Barcelona
that's quite a nice thing to look forward to.
And you're doing that, are you? You're definitely going to Barcelona, or are you just contemplating it?
No, we're doing that. I mean, it's not a huge big deal, but it's a nice thing for the band to do on their birthday. Yeah, and it's the flights over there are quite cheap. So if anybody fancies coming and seeing us in Barcelona,
all 25 years of being together, that deserves celebration.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it? Because many bands don't make that, do they? I mean, I know you've had obviously highs and lows, etc. But it's a wonderful career because of you're still here to tell the tale, aren't you?
Yeah. No, I mean, it has been delightful. I mean, some people complain about sort of like the problems of mega stardom and things like that. I think in a way, just having this sort of having it at this level whereby it is a little bit famous. But it doesn't stop you doing everything, and you do occasionally get recognised in the street and ask for your autograph. I mean, not very often, a couple of times a year, but
that's nice. That's a good. You're right there. It's a nice level to be at, isn't it? You're able to go and express yourself, do what you love, and get recognised, but it doesn't intrude too much.
Yeah, yes, it's just been very pleasant, and some people have been
lucky.
Quite kind to me, really.
Oh. But, that's good. I mean, it's obviously deserving, and you've got lots of dates coming up on your tour still. And if somebody wants to find out more about all your bits and pieces, because you've got your movie there, you've got all your gigs, you've got all your music, where do they actually go? What's the best thing to do, John?
Oh, just go on the website, johnotway.com.
Well, it's great. I'm going to definitely come and see you. I can't wait to see your performance and hear the new album, because I haven't actually caught that yet, so that's going to be quite a listen.
Okay, yeah, I'm really delighted with it.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, John. It's been an absolute pleasure, I must say, and thank you for giving up your time, and I do hope the tour goes well, and I can't wait for the invite for the 70th birthday celebrations that you've got going on in a few years' time.
Okay,
bye-bye.
And you, thank you very much.
You've been listening to Cat Tales. To listen again to this and other tales, go to cattales.co.uk.